Hi, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. I just want to make sure I got this in the mail and the meeting ID and passcode was for a meeting on June 28th, but it says July 12th. This is regarding the Celilo Inn, the land next to that. We're asking for a zone change. I want to make sure that's the meeting. This is the meeting for that. Oh, okay, cool.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, so the notice that you guys sent, I think it has the wrong info on it. I found you guys as off the city website. Hey, Don, how are you? Good.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to the July 12th, 2021 regular city council meeting. I'd like to ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Runyon,
Present.
Counselor Long Curtis,
Present.
Counselor Richardson,
Present.
Counselor Randall,
Present.
Counselor McLaughlin,
Present.
Mayor Mays.
Present. Item three is Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Councilor Long Curtis to please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Item 4 is approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I propose we approve tonight's agenda, Mr. Mayor.
I second the motion.
It's been moved by Councilor Richardson, seconded by Councilor Randall to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion?
Question,
Councilor Runyon.
just a question, the annexation public hearing, there are 2 public hearings required, is that correct? So it can't be approved tonight? Pages 10 of 13 and 28 of 79 talk about a second 2 public hearings for approval. I just want to verify that that was correct.
Can a member of the staff please fill us in on this, please?
Chair, Mayor and members of council, I am under the impression that tonight is consideration of a special ordinance and that you can approve that tonight if it's unanimous, is that correct? It can be adopted by title only.
And I'm talking about the annexation.
He's
Public
referring to the public hearing, not the action item. and that there's 2 hearings required. So I guess the question was the first hearing before the planning commission, and this is the second hearing, or is the council required to have 2 public hearings?
There you go.
I thought this was the second hearing, but I could be mistaken.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. This would be the second hearing. The first hearing occurred before the planning commission. And so this would be the second hearing for that matter.
Okay, I just wanted that clarified because it didn't really say that on those 2 pages. It just said 2 public hearings were required. I did not know if that meant city council public hearings, if you included the planning commission, what have you. So thank you.
Thank
Just to
you.
be clear, you're talking about item 10A, is that correct?
I'm talking about the annexation, whatever number it is, looks like 12A. 12A.
That is an action item. The hearing for that item has already occurred.
It's the annexation one is what I'm asking about. To me, it looks like 12A is what that is on my agenda, but
That's an action item, and the city council and planning commission have already conducted the public hearings for that issue.
okay. All
So
right,
the public hearing, but we are having a public hearing regarding item 10A.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Kara.
thank you. That's correct. So I think part of the apprehension here is we had our public hearing on the special ordinance number 21587 about a month ago, if that sounds right. And since then, I've been working with staff at drafting the special ordinance and attachments. And so we had a few hiccups along the way. And so this 12A action item stems from, well, comes on the heels of 2 public hearings that were conducted, one before the planning commission, one before the city council, about last month. Public hearing for tonight is on special ordinance number 21588, the next one. And that is a completely different annexation, but they're titled similarly. And so I can totally see why this is a little confusing.
all right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, staff, for clearing that up. Okay, with that, there is a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 5 is audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. 5 minutes per person will be allowed. If a response by the city is requested, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. The issue may appear on a future meeting agenda for city council consideration. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the city council for up to 5 minutes?
Yes, there is.
It looks like Mr. Gomez.
Should I proceed? Are we
Yes,
ready?
Please give us your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Please
Thank you
proceed.
very much, Mr. Mayor. My name is Chuck Gomez, along with Deborah Liddell, my wife. We are the owners of the Granada Theater, and I thought it would be appropriate to stop in the council meeting and maybe bring up some updates on the event we have planned for this Saturday at the Lewis and Clark Music Festival Park. We have rented the park and have procured all essential and necessary needs and facts for the presentation of our Legends in the Dalles. The Legends in the Dalles opens gates at 12 o'clock noon, full of beer sales, cocktail sales, and many, many, many food vendors. Music starts at 4 o'clock with Eric Sugar Larson, the Stevie Ray of the Northwest. His band performs one full concert, followed by Bobby Torres Ensemble. Bobby Torres was in Santana's and Joe Cocker's band when they performed at Woodstock. That is his legendary tie-in to our festival, followed by Roger Fisher. Roger Fisher is a founding member, a songwriter, lead guitarist for the 40 million record selling Heart band. He opens up for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band that we have, the Marshall Tucker Band. That takes place this Saturday, the 17th. Presently, we are working towards 1,000 guests to come to our event. I have here, I'm not going to read it all, but you can easily see these are most of the cities and states that we had time to print out for this meeting. We have easily 30 different states, cities that have bought tickets from beyond our 15-mile radius to come to this event. I have always believed that the strength and growth of this community lies in bringing people from out of town to our community. Tourism is the key to not just this community, but literally every community in America. It's better to use other people's money to grow our town than our tax dollars. So with that said, we have people coming from 5, 6, 7, I think 7 or 8 states now, dozens and dozens of communities. And I will say that I'd like to point out that our music festival this Saturday has the town's name right in the name of our event. We are the Legends in the Dalles. Every poster that we have depicts architectural features of our community with the name The Dalles in every poster, every flyer, every Facebook booth that we have, every email has the town's name in it. Our posters have the name. Our television commercials have the name. Our radios, every time you say Legends in the Dalles, that is promoting our community. We believe that from a private business perspective standpoint, and we bring this to the attention of our city council in hopes that they recognize that we too are working to strengthen our community. Am I at my 5 minutes now? Do I have a little more time?
Let me check.
Got about 1:10.
I have this event planned for July 17th. We are in partnership with Seditions, Aaron and Kelly Lee. They have been wonderful people to partner with, and with my wife, Deborah, myself, and those two, we have really become a fearsome foursome presenting these events. This is the first of our 4 planned events. The next event is August 14th, right in the middle of our Neon Nights with a harder rock and roll show, Molly Hatchet and others. We have a September 11th event planned with Asia and Louis Prima Jr. Big Band. We are presenting acts that appeal to a wide cross-section of our population in hopes of drawing more and more people as this continues to grow and grow. And we even have our June 11th of next year planned. So I thank you very much for this 5 minutes to bring you up to date. Not everyone on the council was even aware we were doing this. Oh my goodness. Let's get out from under the rock and look around. Here we go. Legends in the Dalles.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the city council at this time for up to 5 minutes? Anybody? Last call. Okay, that concludes item number 5. Item number 6 is city manager's report. Ms. Kruger.
Thank you, Mayor Mace. I do not have a verbal report tonight.
Okay. City attorney report, Mr. Kara.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Just a very brief update this week. I've spent nearly all my time since our last regular meeting working directly with staff on a number of longer range assignments, while also balancing those that have been popping up and arising unexpectedly, like the special ordinance for the special meeting before the Independence Day holiday. And as far as external contacts outside of the city since our last meeting, last week I attended the Northern Wasco PUD board meeting and spoke with Mr. Roger Klein. And also last week I met briefly with the executive director at the Port of the Dalles. And that's my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. City Council reports. We'll start with Councilor Runyon.
Today I attended the Mid-Columbia Veterans Memorial Committee, and we gave them a tour of the Veterans Museum located upstairs in City Hall. That's it.
That's it. Councilor Long Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So somehow I managed to get all of my city business on June 30th. So that was a pretty busy day for me. In the morning, I spent a couple hours participating in the Comprehensive Economic Development SWOT analysis that was hosted by Mid-Columbia Economic Development District. It was an online meeting that had both the full group and small group breakout sessions. MCED's going to be sending out a summary and allowing additional input from stakeholders who couldn't attend the meeting. I haven't seen that come out yet, but if other counselors or the mayor or staff are interested, I would contact MCED and make sure that you're already on their list. I would guess so, but I just want you to double check if you want that opportunity. I also attended the City Council's special meeting regarding the emergency declaration about the heat and prohibiting fireworks. And finally, I met with a constituent who's extremely concerned about Google being given water rights to the Chenoweth Aquifer rather than having to get its water through the city. And I was wondering if that's true.
I believe Mr. Anderson could probably answer that. Mr. Anderson, our Public Works Director. Dave, you're either muted or we can't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Sorry about that. Not that I'm aware of, but you know, there's a lot of negotiations underway that are not, I guess, ready for full disclosure. But I have not heard that, and I have been involved with a lot of the conversations.
Okay, so I guess, so I just wanted some clarification on that. And I guess what I would say then is that is something that there's a lot of concern in the community about. So if that is something that becomes part of the secretive negotiations, because of course that does have to take place with a small group and confidentiality, I think we're going to need some kind of time for community input on that, because I don't think that, I think there's going to be a lot of opposition to that, I guess is what I'm saying, if that ends up being a factor.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I might be able to provide a little bit more information related to that. So the Dalles is located in what's designated as a critical groundwater area. So it's not, there is no opportunity to get new water rights from that aquifer. Now, existing water rights can be moved around, but there wouldn't be an opportunity to come in and get new water rights within the aquifer that you referenced, that was commonly called the Dalles Pool.
Okay, and so how would they get moved around? Like a private party would sell their rights, or?
Well, there's a number of different mechanisms. They could be sold private party to private party if it's approved through the state, or transferred just on a donation basis. But yes, they can be moved as long as the water rights are still valid, and non-municipal water rights have to be used every 5 years to remain valid.
Okay, thank you. And that was the end of my report, Mr. Mayor.
There was some limited discussion regarding the water agreement with Google at the when we were discussing the SIP agreement back in March. And I believe Mr. Anderson at that time indicated, and I believe Julie, our city manager, confirmed that this agreement with Google, while it's confidential now, will be the subject of public meetings, one or more public meetings coming up as soon as we get some other things taken care of and out of the way, not the least of which, of course, is the agreement we're negotiating with Google. So anyone who is concerned about water rights and Google's share of the water and what have you, rest assured that this will be coming up at a public meeting for city council consideration in the future. Okay.
So does that type of public meeting require like 2 hearings then, so we can get people's input and then think about it, or possibly have the team go back and renegotiate?
Well, I'm not sure about any renegotiation, but I think that the city council can determine how many meetings we would like to have concerning this issue. For example, with the SIP agreement, I believe we had 2, and I think the county had 2, so a total of 4. Of course, the county isn't involved with this particular matter, but we can have as many public hearings or meetings, public meetings on this subject as we care to have.
So I think people are concerned that by the time they hear about something, it's going to be too late because of what you just said about you're not sure about renegotiating. And that was my concern as well. It's pretty much a done deal. And I feel like we're just going to talk about whatever it is. And so I'm bringing this concern forward now and saying people don't want that, or at least some people don't. And we need that and maybe other things considered, because there's been a lot of pushback about Google. And I think it would help to continue a good, healthy relationship with the community to make sure people are heard before we make decisions.
I can't imagine anyone disagreeing with that. So
If and when that agreement comes before the city council, it would only be an agreement between the city and the entity. So anything outside of the city wouldn't come to the city council for consideration, but I have not heard that at all in any discussions.
Well, it might be worth considering that for all of the entities involved in the negotiation, that we have some kind of public meeting where people can talk to us about the things they're concerned about. And they won't know whether or not it's actually in the agreement, but then the negotiating team would at least know what the community is concerned about while they're doing their negotiations, and then they'll have to handle it the best they can to make the best deal that they can. But I really think we need to give people the opportunity to participate at a point where they can make a difference. Thank you.
okay. That was your report, right? Okay. Moving on to Council Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to report.
Okay, Council Richardson,
No report this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor McLaughlin.
You bet. I'd like to start by sharing a short story. Occasionally, small acts of kindness and thoughtfulness can go unnoticed and sometimes taken for granted. As you know, I frequent Mama Jane's quite often at the community table. And while I was sitting there on Monday after 4th of July, a visitor from our Portland area was talking about how she had met a patrol officer and that he had been very helpful and that he was courteous and kind. And she was so impressed with this officer. He had given her not only directions, but he took her to the restaurant. And as she was explaining this story to the table, there was another couple from Portland that were business people, and they were listening intently, and they said, what is the climate in the Dalles, and is it friendly for business? And all of this is just because of one single act that was done by one police officer. And, you know, we hear a lot about defunding the police departments, and the cry is common. I'm convinced that the act similar to this one happens all the time, but we sometimes fail to recognize the good that happens around us. I, for one, am proud to be a citizen of this great city with police officers like Koji Nagamatsu patrolling our streets. Thank you, Koji, for your fine job and your ambassadorship. Good job. With that being said, I've attended some meetings with Mayor Mays and other professionals to explore possible sites to assist in developing a new CAP office and homeless shelter. I have attended recent meetings with our regional airport, and I have observed increased traffic and fuel sales. They've gone through the roof. I also noticed the presence of firefighting assets that have been instrumental in preventing and suppressing fires in our region. It's great having all of these things happening at our airport. The transition to the new operations managers appears to be going seamless. This ends my report.
Thank you, Counselor.
You're welcome.
Under my report, the only thing I'm going to mention is on June the 30th, I attended a Yard of the Month celebration at the home of Julie and Kevin Ryan, who were awarded the Yard of the Month by the Beautification Committee. So congratulations to the Ryans. Okay, and item 9 is the consent agenda. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the City Council to spend its time and energy on the important items and issues. Any councilor may request an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of the action items section. Tonight, we have 3 items on the consent agenda. First is the approval of the June 28th City Council minutes, the regular meeting. Second is the approval of the special council meeting minutes of June 30th. Our city attorney, Mr. Kara, alluded to the meeting that was held to declare a state of emergency due to extreme weather conditions. And finally, the consent agenda it includes an item concurring with my appointment of Adam Romlow to the City Beautification Committee. Is there any discussion, or if not, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I so move to accept the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councilor McLaughlin and seconded by Councilor Long Curtis to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye, McLaughlin, aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10A is what we were alluding to previously, is a special ordinance granting a zoning ordinance amendment and a comprehensive plan amendment for some property on East 2nd Street. This is now's the time for a public hearing regarding this issue. This is a legislative hearing to receive testimony regarding the proposed zoning change and comprehensive plan amendment. I will open the public hearing and ask for a staff report. Following the staff report, I will call for testimony from the audience. At the conclusion of the testimony, the public hearing will be closed and the matter turned over to the City Council for deliberation and a decision. With that, I am now opening the public hearing. And I am asking now for a staff report. I'm assuming from our Ms. Cannon.
Mayor Mays and members of council, I want to turn this presentation over to Don Hurt, our senior planner, who has prepared a presentation for this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Hurt.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Mays and councilors. I will be doing a share screen here, so we've got a little bit something to follow through or follow on. There we go. All right. Is everybody able to see the slideshow? We're good. Okay, perfect. Okay. So tonight we will be going over zoning map ordinance amendment 103-21 and comp plan amendment number 48-21. The applicant is Umair Sheikh, and Umair's family owns this property as well as the adjacent motel that is located out on East 2nd Street. Property in question is an adjacent parcel, and it is currently zoned residential medium density. And the proposal is to consider a map zone change and a comprehensive plan land use designation change. Just to give you a good idea of what we're looking at in terms of the zoning and surrounding properties, I did include this in the staff report. So as you can see, the red outline is the property that we are discussing today. I just mentioned the commercial general property owned by Mr. Sheikh's family, and that is where the motel is, the Solilo Inn. The property up on the hill, there's a pretty substantial bluff that exists in this area. And it does say Fremont, that's what our GIS map says, but it's known as Columbia View Heights. So these properties up here are definitely on a different level. Down below, you have zoning of commercial general, obviously, residential mobile home or manufactured, residential medium density, industrial, as well as commercial general and commercial recreational. I'm sure some of you or most of you are pretty familiar with the site, but I just wanted to give a little bit, actually, I'm going to go back one screen, sorry. Access to this parcel is via 2nd Street down here. It's called Lower 8 Mile. It does extend up through an easement that goes on not only on the motel property, but also to that parcel. There are individual parcels or residential parcels that also access, that's their main access. So as I just explained, here's the access point to the Celilo Inn and the adjacent parcel or the subject parcel. And this is the access off of East 2nd Street. A little bit of information or, site visual from the upper level where the actual lot is, and then a view looking upwards at that subject lot. Again, to kind of show a little bit of the topography change, this is actually, I'm here on the parcel looking west, and then this is actually on the motel property looking east at the parcel, which is in this location. Just kind of give you an idea of surrounding properties. As I mentioned, there are some residential structures that do have our parcels that access via the same access road going up to the motel. And then to the east is the Viewpoint Trailer Park or Manufactured Home Park. So in terms of review, the Dalles Municipal Code, we have a zone change review criteria. We deal with conformance, suitability, streets and traffic, and adverse effects. So particularly in conjunction or in dealing with conformance, the proposed zone change conforms to the comp plan, including our transportation system plan, as well as other provisions of this title. Staff believes that together with the proposed comprehensive plan amendment, that this will conform, or this zone change will conform to the transportation system plan that is in place, as well as other provisions of our code. I'll detail a little bit later, talking more so about the state transportation rules. Suitability. Site is adequately sized and shaped for normal uses that are allowed in this proposed zone. So the recommendation from residential medium density to commercial general, the minimum lot size for commercial general is 10,000 square feet. The subject parcel is 4.23 acres, which satisfies this requirement. And then it also, in terms of development of that parcel, will be actually governed if this zone change is approved by the commercial general design regulations. Streets and traffic. Site is or will be adequately served by streets for the type of volume and traffic generated by the uses that may be permitted in this new zone. So staff believes that the subject property and the existing easement is adequately serving, the motel is adequate. The easement provided has access to 6 single-family homes as well as the existing motel. And as I stated before, there's substantial elevation change between 2nd Street, so getting access down, actually fronting on 2nd Street would not be reasonable. Our adopted TSP designates our East 2nd Street as a proposed minor collector, and our function as collector streets is equally divided between mobility and access. So we connect local neighborhoods or district traffic to an arterial network. So East 2nd Street has the capacity to handle or accommodate any additional traffic or anticipated increase due to a zone change. Adverse effect. Proposed zone change will have minimal adverse effect on existing and future surrounding development. So staff believes that this parcel is better suited as commercial than residential due to its location being adjacent to a major highway, which is I-84, the railroad, as well as the industrial uses that are to the north, an existing motel to the west, as well as a steep hillside. These kind of uses create incompatibilities with the property in terms of having residential uses, and commercial uses on this property would be more appropriate for this site. Any type of future development of the property will be guided again by development code, and adherence to those standards will act to minimize potential adverse impacts on adjacent land uses. Staff's opinion that this request satisfies the criteria as established in our land use and development code. The Dalles Comprehensive Plan. We took a look at Goal 1, citizen involvement, Goal 2, land use planning, Goal 10, housing, as well as Goal 9, economic development. In terms of citizen involvement, proposals consistent with goals and policies of our comprehensive plan. Staff prepared notifications, not only to the DLCD, property owners within 100 feet, as well as in the local newspaper. Goal 2, land use planning, to establish land use planning policy framework as a basis for all decisions. These proposed zoning amendments update the existing zoning maps and will follow the directive of the comprehensive plan. Housing. So there's a couple policies or sub-policies within that housing goal at the state. Policy 6, encouraging energy conservation by increasing residential developments in mixed-use centers along with major linear streets that may one day serve as a future transit corridor and near commercial and employment centers. Policy 8 deals with flexibility in implementing ordinances in order to accommodate infill and foster a variety of development scenarios and housing options. Policy 12, high density residential areas shall be located near commercial and employment areas and along major streets. And then implementing measures, again, just detailing mixed use measures for commercial and residential developments that, basically encouraging that. So staff believes that the analysis that we made, in terms of the land supply in the comprehensive plan, we required to have adequate land supply for at least 20 years, as well as providing flexibility in our housing type, location, and density to ensure that we have availability and prices of houses, prices of housing units commiserate with the needs of the financial capabilities of Oregon households. So as detailed in the staff reports, city prepared or had previously prepared a not yet adopted housing needs assessment. We're looking to do adopt that here in the near future by reference. And that last study provided details about factors potentially affecting housing development or demographics, et cetera. The housing needs assessment also included our buildable lands inventory, the inventory for housing uses within the UGB. And staff believes that the 2017 HNA also found that there was enough, it states that there is adequate land for housing types in the city. However, land zoned in these housing types must be developed at higher densities. Rezoning of this 4.23 acre parcel back to its pre-1994 designation will provide flexibility and opportunity to have this parcel developed as mixed use for both commercial and residential uses. So that's one thing I did not state in the beginning. This property was previously zoned prior to 1994 commercial general. Goal 9, economic development. To provide adequate opportunities throughout the state. So the proposed zone change will add to the existing commercial land supply and allow for the existing motel business to expand onto an adjacent parcel. Oregon statewide planning goals. Proposed zoning map amendment and comprehensive map amendment is in conformity to all applicable state statutes, as well as applicable to municipal code standards were developed in compliance with the applicable state statutes and implement their requirements and in conformity with the statewide planning goals wherever they're determined to be applicable. Staff has examined the record on this matter and finds that the applicant has met the criteria and that the proposed zone change plan amendment, which is governed by ORS 197.610, as well as local government notice amendment regulations and notice requirements, that these criteria are met. Notice and availability of the staff report was prepared and provided to the be consistent with the Planning Commission's hearing, as well as City Council. In conformity with statewide planning goals wherever they're determined to be applicable. Staff also examined the record and found that the applicant had met their criteria and that statewide goals 1, 2, 10, and 12 apply to the application, that they're satisfied, including citizen involvement, land use process, provided public notice, and that notification was provided to property owners, as well as meetings, 2 public hearing meetings that were provided at Planning Commission as well as City Council on Zoom. Statewide Planning Goal 2, land use planning. The city's land use planning process and policy has been applied to this application. 2 public hearings were held, and the city provided the public and that all the applicable criteria has been addressed. Goal 10, housing requires that local jurisdictions provide sufficient lands to accommodate the variety of housing types. The 2017 residential building inventory showed an oversupply of residential building lands. And according to that inventory, there was a need of 232.5 net acres of land for multifamily and single family through 2036, and that we had a supply of 480 acres. Staff is making a recommendation that the City Council move to approve Special Ordinance 21-588, which is an ordinance granting zoning ordinance amendment 103-21 and comprehensive plan amendment number 48-21 for property located on East 2nd Street, further described as 1N13E 1AA, tax lot 100. And that concludes my staff report. Does council or Mayor Mays have any questions for me?
We will be getting into deliberation after the closing of the public hearing, but I will allow questions of the staff as opposed to any discussion. Is there any questions regarding the presentation by any member of the City Council?
One question, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Richardson, and then Councilor Runyon.
The notice to neighboring property owners was to people within 300 feet. Is that correct?
That is correct. I stated, so our quasi-judicial, sorry about that. Our quasi-judicial is 100, legislative is 300, and conditional use. Thank you. Sorry about that.
And that's all right. And that includes a number of the residences in the Viewpoint community?
That is correct.
I'm going to sneak in a comment, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. It's not and this is not relating necessarily to this site, but that's a modest amount of notice. I would like to see if we could think about enlarging the circle of notification for future projects.
Now, this is something that has been brought up on previous occasions. Perhaps the staff can look into that. Councilor Runyon. You're muted, Rod.
There we go. I just wanted to clarify because I had the wrong number in front of me when I was asking my question about the agenda. It indeed was 21-588. I apologize for that. So I want to reiterate my question. And the reason for my question is I don't have a problem with the project per se, but I just want to make sure that we're approving something correctly. And when I read statewide goal 2, land use planning, it's not clear to me that the Planning Commission's hearing counts as one of the 2, because it tells me in the middle of the paragraph on statewide goal 2, land use planning, the city's existing land use planning process and policy framework has been applied in this application. At least 2 public hearings will be held on the application. The city will provide information about the plan amendment zone changes to the public and has addressed the applicable criteria. Any changes to the comprehensive plan and zone map will occur only after the Planning Commission makes a recommendation. So is a recommendation, is that completing public hearing in this instance, or does the City Council have to have 2 public hearings regarding the recommendation from the Planning Commission?
Great question, Councilor Runyon. So we do, our 2-part is a review by, or a public hearing by the Planning Commission. So that has occurred, and we did provide you with meeting minutes from the Planning Commission. So that was public hearing 1. And the Planning Commission's role in this is that they are not the final decision. So they make a recommendation to you, the City Council, as the final decision maker. So then that's public hearing number 2, which is tonight, which is right now. And Planning Commission would then, or excuse me, City Council would then make that decision tonight as, you know, and adopt or not adopt the special ordinance.
Okay, so I just wanted to get that out there to the public that this is definitely the second public hearing.
That's correct.
Planning Commission's first public hearing is number 1. All right. One other question, and I almost hate to even mouth the words. Seems like a few years ago in the Columbia Gorge, there was an entity that wanted to put in a wedding chapel along the Columbia River Gorge, and it became a big, big deal. And I'm wondering, is this in any way involve the Gorge Commission?
It does not. So all of our urban areas that are located in our urban growth boundary are what we consider urban exempt. So those do not have National Scenic Area requirements. We do have a couple areas that are on our outskirts of town. This is not one of those that has like a slight overlay where the National Scenic Area does drop into our urban growth boundary, but this is not one of those properties.
Great, and that shows exactly what my research was. I just like to have these things verbalized and on the record. And thank you so much.
Absolutely. You bet. Thanks.
Any other questions for the staff? Okay, with that, we're going to go to testimony. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the City Council at this time regarding this issue or this proposal? And let's start with people that are in favor of the proposal. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of the proposal?
Mayor, I know our applicant is ready to make a presentation this evening, and he will definitely be in favor of his application. So this would be a good time for him to speak up.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. My name is Omer. Sorry, I didn't realize my video was off, but yeah, so basically.
Excuse me, could you give your address, please?
PO Box 871-538, Vancouver, Washington 98687.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I can go ahead and start.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, so we own the hotel which is adjacent to this property in question, and we've been asked multiple times over the years if we can host weddings for our guests there. We didn't have the space. My dad bought the land a few years ago, and we thought it'd be a good extension for our hotel amenities for our guests. The view is really, really nice from there, and the amount of business that Hood River does with weddings is pretty substantial. And these weddings bring a lot of room nights to not only our hotel, but to other hotels in the area, as well as different vendors such as caterers, florists, cleaners, you name it. So I think it would be a good addition not only to our hotel, but to the community of the Dalles as well.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to address the City Council in favor of this proposal? Okay, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the proposal? Okay, with that, testimony is hereby over, and I'm closing the public hearing. And now we'll move to City Council deliberation. Any council member would like to comment? This will be the appropriate time. Any comments or further questions? Councilor Lon Curtis.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I agree with everything that Umair said. That was what I was thinking as I was going through the staff report, is that this will bring a lot of additional business to our town, and it is a beautiful location, and it's one more wonderful thing that we can be known for. So I'm in favor.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion to approve the ordinance.
Mayor Mays, I can go ahead and do that.
Council,
I accept the staff recommendation. I move to approve special ordinance number 21-588 and ordinance granting zoning ordinance amendments number 103-21 and comprehensive plan amendment number 48-21 for property located on East 2nd Street, further described as 1N13E 1AA tax lot 100.
Counselor Runyon, I'll second.
It's been moved by Counselor McLaughlin and seconded by Counselor Runyon to approve the ordinance 21-588. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
McLaughlin, aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. And Mr. Sheik, thank you very much for your development proposal and your interest in furthering economic development in the city of the Dalles. Thank you for coming.
Oh, well, thank you for your cooperation.
Okay, moving on. Item 11A, purchase of a new CAT 315 excavator. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Your Honorable Mayor and members of council. One of the items in this year's budget is the purchase of a larger excavator for the Public Works Wastewater Collection Division. We've been saving funds for this project for quite a few years now, or this purchase, excuse me. The city's maintenance program for its water and sanitary sewer system utilizes trenchless technologies such as slip lining and stent repairs as much as we can, but there's still a need to do open trench excavation for quite a few of our projects. Historically, we've been able to do a lot of our shallower projects on smaller lines in-house using the smaller excavators that we have, but we've completed a lot of that shallower work, and we're now to the point where kind of three factors have come together warranting the need for a larger machine. The first is, as I mentioned, a lot of the shallower work has been done, and much of the work that needs to be done to repair or replace sewer lines and storm lines are at depths of 10 feet or more. The second thing is that we recently were required to upgrade our shoring systems. This is the system that provides the hard steel walls that allows us to work safely in trenches. And that new shoring system is much heavier than our old systems were. Right now, we only have one piece of equipment that can safely lift the weight of that shoring system, and it's a loader. And a loader has very little reach, and it has to get very close to the trench to be able to move that trench box, which is not an ideal situation. And the third is we're doing a lot more new main installation in the support of single family developments. And with the city's participation to construct the new sewer mains needed to support these single family developments or single lot developments, the price is much lower, and lots are able to afford to be developed where they otherwise might not be able to, utilizing the services of a contractor. I'll just make a note, the city doesn't do utility installations for subdivisions. Those are large enough developments that it's felt that they can incur and cover the cost of utility extension. So we're not doing that type of work. The unit that we're proposing to purchase is a 36-pound class machine. We can reach about 19 feet deep with that. We've selected a Caterpillar 315 model because we have other CAT equipment within the department. We're familiar with CAT equipment, and we have a local dealer for when service is required. We looked at the used market. There is not much in the way of low-hour used equipment on the West Coast that we were able to find. We did find one in Utah that had low hours, less than 600 hours, and was just under $200,000 for the purchase of that used machine. And of course, with a used piece of equipment, use and maintenance histories are largely unknown. We can purchase a new CAT, a new excavator through Peterson CAT, utilizing the Sourcewell pricing agreement. Sourcewell is a competitive purchasing program that we've successfully used in the past for other equipment. And through this program, we can receive a 19% discount and purchase a brand new machine for $212,633. That price would include 2 buckets. It includes a 5-year warranty, and it includes free delivery. In the light of that, given that we're only about $13,000 more than the low hour used machine that we found that would have to be shipped here and pay for shipping and with no warranty, staff's recommending the purchase of a new machine through the Sourcewell pricing agreement. We're also recommending the purchase of 2 attachments. One would be a tilting 54-inch ditch cleaning bucket, and the other one would be a 30-inch rock ripper. And with those 2 attachments, the total purchase price would be $229,946.99. The discount that we're receiving by purchasing this through Sourcewell is $48,951.60. The current year budget provides an allocation of $335,000 in the Public Works Reserve Fund for this purchase. The total cost of the CAT 315 with the optional attachments is $229,946.99. So there are adequate funds available for the purchase. And with that, it's staff's recommendation that the council move to authorize the purchase of a new CAT 315 excavator with an optional tilting bucket and rock ripper from Peterson Cat through a Sourcewell pricing agreement in an amount not to exceed $229,946.99.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Does anyone have any questions, or is there any discussion regarding the purchase of this piece of equipment? Anybody? Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
Mr.
Mayor
Mayor. Nope, go ahead, Scott.
I move to authorize the purchase of a new CAT 315 excavator with an optional tilting bucket and a rock ripper from Peterson Cat through a Sourcewell pricing agreement in an amount not to exceed $229,946.99.
Councilor Long Curtis, did you want to second that?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. I'm glad you guys negotiated that 99 cents. That extra penny might have made a determination. Okay,
We were fortunate.
Is there any more discussion or questions for the staff? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, it's been moved by Councilor Randall and seconded by Councilor Long Curtis to approve the purchases. Can I have a show of hands? How many people are in favor of the motion or speak up?
McLaughlin, yay.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 12A is a special ordinance annexing certain additional properties located within our urban growth boundary into the city. And that would be Ms. Hurd again.
Correct. Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mays and councilors. And I just want to touch base a little bit on what Councilor Runyon said earlier. So thank you for clarifying that. Annexations do not have to go before the Planning Commission. That is a decision that is made by City Council. This process that we brought to you, we're kind of starting new. We're all kind of learning on, what's the best process to get these annexations to City Council for approval. So what we did is a 2-part process this last time, which was the public hearing first, and then bringing this special ordinance to you for approval. So this next round, so actually there's going to be a meeting on the second meeting in July for the 26th. We ended up incorporating those processes together to save a little bit of time for you. And it makes it a little tedious for staff, and Jonathan's been great, but I just wanted to let you know that from this point forward, we're hoping to go ahead and get this done in one meeting with a public hearing and a decision. So save some time. So with that being said, the issue at hand today is special ordinance number 21-587, which is annexing 9 properties located in the urban growth boundary and pursuant to the urban growth boundary of the city pursuant to ORS 222.125. As stated in the staff report on April 26th, City Council, you conducted a public hearing and voted unanimously to approve the annexation of several parcels. The This is the second part of that phase that is officially memorializing the annexation of those said parcels. Budget implications: completion of these annexations will result in additional property taxes paid to the city, and they'll be planned to be completed in time, beginning for property taxes beginning effective November 2022. Council alternatives, staff's recommendation is that we move to adopt special ordinance 21-587, annexing certain additional properties located in the urban growth boundary of the city of the Dalles pursuant to ORS 222.125, which are including consent annexations 74-21 for Decker, 75-21 for Legacy Development Group, 76-21 for City of the Dalles, and 77-21 Lloyd by title only. Do you have any questions of staff?
Any questions for Ms. Hurd? I have one. Annexation at number 7521 Legacy Development. It's on page 69. There's a house in the southwest corner of the lot. Does Legacy own that house too?
So Legacy does not. The application was made by Legacy, but we did have the current owner and the former owner of the entire parcel that Legacy purchased sign a consent to annex form, which is Mr. John Geiger. So that we did have a consent annex for both of those parcels there.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion. Move to adopt special ordinance number 21-587, annexing certain additional properties located in the urban growth boundary of the city of the Dalles pursuant to ORS 222.125, consent annexations, ANX number 7421 Decker and ANX number 7521 Legacy Development Group, ANX number 76-21 City of the Dalles, and NAX number 7721 Lloyd by title only.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
It's been moved by Councilor Long Curtis and seconded by Councilor Richardson to approve the ordinance annexing certain additional properties into the city, into the urban growth boundary. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Finally, we're at the action item 12A, or excuse me, 12B, which is approval of a transfer of airport management contract to Mr. Jeff Renard of Aviation Management Services. I know Mr. Renard is here tonight. So during the discussion, if anyone has any questions of him, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer. Any discussion on this item or questions of the staff? Oh, Julie, did you want to make a report? I'm sorry.
Thank you. Hi. This is already been recommended by the airport board to move it forward. So if the city council approves the transfer tonight, then it will go to Klickitat County for their approval as well. Dave and Aaron Rasmussen. Hi, Aaron is here tonight too to help answer questions. Are moving out of the area and they have decided to assign their agreement to Jeff Renard. It's a pretty straightforward as far as what the agreement allows, that no consent will be unreasonably withheld. The airport board found no reason to withhold it. So we're recommending that the transfer of ownership be approved. And then Aaron and Jeff are in attendance if the council has any questions.
Any questions of Aaron or Jeff or any discussion?
I have one question, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Richardson.
And I apologize. Someone asked me this pretty shortly before the meeting and I just didn't have time to ask around. Mr. Renard, are you employed by TAC Arrow?
Yes, I am currently employed by TAC Arrow. I will be leaving that employment though. With
If this contract is signed, you would be leaving employment with TAC Arrow.
yes, I would.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Mayor,
Yeah, Mr. Kara.
I just wanted to note, I had a small clerical error on this first amendment that's presented in the agenda. And so I'll be sending a revised copy of it to the city clerk, fixing a small typo that I made. And
Goodness.
sorry about that.
Okay. Must have been pretty small. I didn't see it. Okay. And Councilor Runyon.
I guess my question then is, was it a material error or a non-consequential error?
It was inconsequential clerical. We'll take care of it on our end.
Thank you.
Well, now you got my curiosity aroused. I'm not going to go to bed tonight.
Okay, okay. You see,
No, you're
now
not-
therefore, I'll show you where it is. It says now therefore, it should say First Amendment, not First Agreement.
Uh-huh.
That's all.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Before you finish this up, because I know we're at the end of the meeting, Aaron, you and Dave have been wonderful to work with. We're really gonna miss you. And we appreciate everything that you have done to advance the airport.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Julie. I was going to mention that at the end.
Oh, we can't hear you, Aaron.
You're either muted, but we can't hear you, Aaron. Well, that's okay.
I'm gonna take the opportunity in the brief minute here that I second what Julie just said, and the incredible amount of change, positive change at the airport over the last couple of years has been wonderful, and we will definitely miss both of you. Thank you for your hard service.
Yes, thank you very much. Any other discussion on this? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the transfer?
Mr. Mayor, since I'm open mic'd, I will do that. I move to approve the transfer of ownership of aviation management services to Jeff Renard.
Councilor Runyon seconds.
It's been moved by Councilor McLaughlin and seconded by Councilor Runyon to approve the transfer of the contract. Is there any other discussion or questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand. 1, 2,
Aye.
Curtis,
Laughlin,
aye.
aye.
4, 5. Passes 5-0. Congratulations, Mr. Renard. I know the city and the airport board especially going to be looking forward to working with you. And again, best wishes, Aaron, to you and your husband and your new venture up in Washington, right?
Somewhere unknown.
That's unknown, okay. Is there any other business to come before the city council? Okay, with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for attending.